Gentlemen, how are you?
Cheers.
Well,
Cheers. High noon here. And I've got DC and Rob from the band Stoneside. How you guys doing?
Excellent.
doing well.
Now, you guys were referred to me, kind of, sort of, by a band I just interviewed, by the name of Gore. I guess Alex from that band was at one point in your band.
Yes.
Very
Yep,
cool.
that he was.
So you got a couple of Texas boys, huh?
The scene of Texas has kind of exploded out of nowhere. And I think Rob would agree. He's got friends in a band called Post Profit that signed to Robbie, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's
Sharptown, I think.
Sharp Tone Records. And then Gore signed to Spine Farm.
Mhm.
And then we're showcasing for Sumerian Records in 2-ish weeks.
Very cool. That's
So
awesome.
something just organic has sprung up here, and I don't
Well,
know what it is.
I think it might be the Joe Rogan effect in all of Texas.
All of a sudden, California has come here. Is that what you mean?
Basically, yeah. All the comedians, all those guys, Texas is blowing up.
Yeah, it is, for better and for worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, blowing up is a
Yeah.
good way to put it.
Yeah. Is there an issue with like immigration there?
No, I mean, I'm not bothered by those things. I
Well, I'm not
understand.
saying you should be bothered. I'm just saying, is there like, is
Yes,
that happening? Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
If we're talking the southern border, of course, everyone knows about that. But if we're
Right.
talking about this kind of almost xenophobia towards Californians, I mean, it is a thing. Um, but there is a change in the culture.
Mm.
It's not imagined. It's not. It's a real thing. The influx of West Coast people and Californians into the Hill Country, it's changed the culture to a certain
Yeah.
extent. I don't know. Maybe Rob can speak to that, but I noticed a difference for sure.
Yeah.
And it changes the overall kind of genteel and politic of the state.
Right.
I'm not by any means in support of Texas political leanings, but I love my culture and it's very much reflected in our music. And I'm very proud of being here. And
Yeah.
I hope if we're the last generation of, that Southern genteel kind of nature, then I hope we wear it well.
Yeah. Well, that's why when you reached out to me, one of the things you said was that all of your songs are about people who have passed away.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
Hmm.
And I'm definitely curious as to, you know, what that is all about. But um, DC, tell me, the role you play in the band, and we'll get into to Rob as well before we get into the music.
Sure. Well, my real name is David. I'm trying to become more comfortable with using my real name, but most people, a lot of people call me DC, and I am the lead vocalist and write a good chunk of the songs and arrange. And I also co-engineer and produce our records.
Very cool.
And Mr. Robbie here will say he's a bass player, but he's actually quite a bit more than that, as he essentially turns his bass into a synthesizer, because that's kind of what you have to do in Stoneside, is play multiple instruments.
Of course.
I played guitar for most of my music life, and only really moved to bass in 2012. So I'm used to using pedals and exploring stuff like that. It works really well with some of the Stoneside arrangement because there's just a lot of ethereal aerial stuff. Not a lot going on the low end. So kick on a delay and a whammy pedal, and good times ahead.
And you both have fantastic hair and great facial hair as well. Is that like a
It's a
part of the
it's
band?
no, no. We've got a couple of baby faces who, upon threat of death, could not grow a beard.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's just it's part of the metal culture. Like it's like so over the top masculine at times, and that's not the reason why we wear beards. It's we wear beards because we're ugly. But
I have a beard because I don't have a strong jaw.
well, you know what? It also lets your opponent know where they don't know where to hit you, so you're making an intelligent decision
Yeah.
strategically.
Yeah. It just punched through my beard hair because I miss my jaw because it's not very strong. So that
But
the
no,
beard, the
it's not
beard defines
coordinated.
my.
I just like beards. I've always had facial hair, and I just feel comfortable with it. And with eyebrows like these, you better goddamn well be able to grow a beard to balance that shit out.
That's funny. Well, I think beards kind of hit the scene again 2012, 2013, I want to say, maybe a little earlier than that, but I'm glad it wasn't just a phase.
Well, you know,
Because
we moved from the emo era where being pretty was a real thing, and me and Rob are not pretty dudes. So I'm really glad that the ruffian Irish barbarian look has slowly made its influx back into the scene. Because
yeah.
goddamn, we're finally at home, Robbie.
It used to be straightened and pulled over to the side, and now it's just all moved down here.
Oh
And
yeah, you gotta y'all remember the swoop? That shit
Oh
was
yeah. Yeah, like
that was the attack era. You
yeah,
know that
yeah.
was crab core, right, Rob?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you had to throw it to the side.
Mm-hmm.
Those are good days too, though.
Yes, they
I
were.
still love emo music.
That
Hey
whole
man.
vibe of like the MySpace times just like felt like infinite possibilities. It's like the first real social media music centered
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the beginning, right? I mean, that was where you realized you could network with other bands. I mean, to say that was groundbreaking for musicians, like MySpace was a big phenomenon, but y'all know, like we grew up during that era. That was a game changer for musicians.
Yeah.
We went from doing in my old band, we went from pulling nobody at shows to with the advent of MySpace, people listening to one of our old songs, and then all of a sudden we were packing out bars and then clubs just because of a viral thing. I'm sure Rob, y'all for sure experienced it in Glass Intrepid.
Yeah, it's I got us on there pretty early. Um, Made a few really good network connections. But then as more people joined, before you used to be able to arrange your top eight, but that
Oh
originally it
man.
was just your oldest friends. You couldn't change it. So since we had an old profile, anyone who signed up after us, we would just show up in their top eight friends. We made a lot of connections that way. It was awesome.
It's funny how far it's come.
It's more difficult now. You got to have all the platforms and
Yeah,
be posting on
There,
all of them and not just copying and pasting, an Instagram link to Twitter. You want it to look organic on every, website. So
well,
yeah,
we've jumped around a lot of subjects so far, so obviously we know we can have a good podcast. Let's see, what did we cover
absolutely.
so far? Beards, Californians, Texas, what I
Social
do,
media.
what Rob does, where you're from, you're sick, what we're drinking, social media. I
It
write
doesn't
about dead people.
it doesn't matter where we go.
Pick a
This
pick a
is
limb, gentlemen.
yeah. Now, well, it's funny because like, I mean, social media was like in its infancy was like this like new thing, and I don't we barely knew how to use it really. It's just kind of like, oh, we have top eight friends or whatever, and that kind of grew after that, and then you just kind of chit with like friends that you went to high school with.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you guys kind of utilize it to like further your musical endeavors.
yeah,
Because
well,
like,
I feel like MySpace was based like obviously there were personal profiles, but like bands was like the first thing that could before there were product pages and all that. So
yeah,
and then people sharing it through there, the real, I mean, the beginning of grassroots, but social media stuff was word of mouth, um, tagging people, sharing profiles, whatever.
Well, I mean, a perfect example. There was a band, Rob. You probably remember them, the Finalists,
Oh yeah,
Dylan and them. So they got picked up by a label on a development deal here, and it was essentially all grassroots through MySpace. They were young, attractive. He was a great singer, had that vibe, kind of sounded like Blindside a little bit. Great group, and it came to be purely through MySpace. They were able to look at them. You know, it was groundbreaking in that you could post your songs on there. Like up to that point, like where were you sharing your songs? Maybe through some third party on your website. Now you had a network of people who could land on your page, hear your music, and say, "Holy shit, this is awesome! Who are these guys?"
yeah,
That was, I mean, to say it's a game changer, like it that and streaming it literally is why we're here right now.
yeah. Talk about that because I mean, you've been a band for like what a few years, 2, 3 years.
I think three, Rob, when we, it was Stoneside was a project that I did on my own, and then just a little bit of a history here, so some context.
Let's
Um,
go, let's go.
I lost my job during the pandemic and got in a kind of a bad spot. And there's a story of how this came about, but I'll glaze over that. And then we got reached out to by a booker from TKO Booking who came across our stuff, and he was on fire for it. And he was like, "Tell me your setup. How many guys are there?" And I was like, "One, me." And he goes, "All right, well, you needed a band yesterday." And so I reached out to guys that I knew from around the scene, competent, strong musicians. And then I'd never planned on playing it live. I was kind of done with live music, to be honest. And then with Robbie, um, he had just gotten out of To Whom It May, and I think y'all were signed to GNL, right?
G4L.
G4L, right? Candlebox or Candlebox's label.
Candlebox. He and another guy started this label brand new. They signed us as the very first act in 2018.
So he, one of his friends that happened to hear us, I still don't know where or how. Me and Rob connected online. He's like, "Do you remember me?" And I was like, "Holy shit, yeah, I do." Our bands had played in different variations on same stages before, and it kind of just came about that he was kind of on his way out of To Whom It May. Things were on hiatus, and I think Rob, I asked you, I was like, "Do you want to come play bass for us?" And
Yeah, I think it was like for one show, and I was like, "Yeah, I got time, so cool." And
and
it
that
was
was,
my buddy Taylor from Austin who showed it to me. I got done with the live stream. We hopped on Discord, watched a couple songs. Like, oh, this is awesome, cool. And the next day, he sent me the Instagram story of y'all shooting video for "God Save the King," and so I just double tapped it, and then it notified you. Then we got back in touch after like 15 years, something like that.
so that's how the band actually came to be, and I think it's been around for 3 years, but I think we're in our second year as a full band, Rob. Yeah.
Yeah, first show was June 2022.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason I bring that up is because like you guys have built quite a bit of an organic following just in a small amount of time too.
Yeah, we just got lucky. There was we oftentimes get paralleled with Sleep Token.
Hmm.
Again, for better or for worse. So an early demo, it wasn't even mixed or mastered. I had just thrown it out online to different places to just kind of test it and see if anybody was liking what I was writing. And I think it was History of Violence and God Save the King. I think were the first two songs I wrote. And they got dropped into the Sleep Token fan page and a Deftones fan page. And from there, it just very slowly grew. And uh, I didn't really know what to do with it, to be honest. But people started DMing me about having terminal blood cancer, or their fiance was killed in a motorcycle accident and she lost her leg. So I kept getting these DMs increasingly more and more. And that might come across as morbid, but it I don't know. I was going through some stuff of my own, and uh, it, it was like when I started singing about other people and their stories, those I had lost, as well as the stories that I have researched or gathered from cemeteries from West Texas. I feel better than when I was singing about myself when I was younger. It just felt egocentric. I'd
Hmm.
scream on stage, I'd scream into a microphone, and it never brought me any relief. It never made me feel any better. It wasn't cathartic. When I started singing about other people's stuff, all of a sudden I felt more uh, in touch and like I was making a difference. And that's what made me push harder to promote Stoneside. It wasn't like people like my shit, let's go viral. It was people writing me and telling me what they were struggling with. And I was like, I feel like I have a good purpose now, and I want to undo the first half of my life and make a good impact on my world. And so that moved me forward.
It's amazing. I want to get back to that, but and if I missed this, I apologize. But why do you think people were messaging you to tell you these stories?
I don't know. I didn't expect it. I mean, I thought they were fascinating. Um, a lot of them are fascinating. There was a true story of an Apache brave in West Texas. He was being hunted by, I believe, U.S. Marshals, and they essentially cornered him out in West Texas, kind of out near Fort Davis, Fort Stockton. And as it goes, he was with his son, and instead of allowing them to take him prisoner and kill him in front of his son, or potentially worse, uh, he took his son's life, and then he took his own life. And the soldiers were so moved by it that they took that back to their camp, and that story lived on. And that might be a little dark and morbid, but it's stuff like that that people are mentioning. And I don't know, but people are going through some hard stuff, man. I get a lot of DMs about them having cancer, suicides, a lot of car wrecks.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I'm sorry to ramble. I've been searching from the
No,
beginning.
you're not rambling at all. It's kind of funny because it's not funny, but
I just don't
it's
know.
it's funny that like at least recently I've been saying a lot, whether it's on this podcast or people that I interact with on a daily basis, like in my full-time sales job. Um, Specifically, I work with a company called Coffee Inclusive, and I'm sorry, this is not related to music at all, but they hire people with mental disabilities. So
Hmm.
they hire these individuals and they train them and they basically give them you know what we have a job and everything like that's all normal and it's all like. And I said to her, I said like it takes a special person to do something like that, to be able to work with these people, have the patience and the wherewithal and the desire to guide them, because not everyone has that. What I'm saying is like I think people are put on this earth to do certain things. And, there are people put on this earth to, work with, kids and adults like that. And there's, people put on this earth to work in sales but like in your case, like I feel like you were put here to almost be like a voice or some kind of microphone to
Look,
to share these stories.
it's hard
I
to
think that's probably what Exonerate is largely about, right? Either preserving a memory or in this case, bringing justice to a story.
yeah. So Exonerate was about Mr. Davis. He was wrongfully incarcerated and executed. People tried to bring evidence to light. People were pressed on to withhold testimony or make essentially rash decisions. And come to find out, he was innocent, and we ended up executing him. And yeah, so there's a lot. I have had people write me about loved ones of theirs that have been what they believe to be wrongfully incarcerated. Um, I try to recently get involved in the Innocence Project. If your viewers don't know, go check it out. It's all about getting men and women that have been wrongfully incarcerated, getting their cases seen again, allowing new admission of evidence that might clear their name, so somebody doesn't have to lose their brother, mother, son, etc., to the system to be
Yeah.
executed.
And isn't there like a large amount of people that are in
Yeah.
prison?
Look, Texas is notorious for executing people.
Yeah.
And I was pro capital punishment until I made the obvious realization that, look, if we've killed one innocent man, no, we are no better than those fucking murderers. Anybody who would sit and talk about, well, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. Until that egg is your son
Right.
or your brother or your father, if we've killed one innocent man, as much as I would want someone to suffer if they hurt my little boy or something, I can't get behind it. I
Yeah.
can't get behind it. I mean, we know we've killed innocent men and women. And so that Mr. Davis story for Exonerate, that actually is one of the things that put the nail in the coffin for me about supporting capital punishment.
Hmm.
As somebody's son.
Yeah. Do you
And
feel some kind of, I don't want to say burden, but do you feel like a weight is kind of on your shoulders when you are, sent these messages or you have these stories shared with you? Like, do you feel like obligated to like write a song about that scenario, or How does that kind of work? I mean, the fact that you write all your music is about people who are passed away. Like I said, I've never heard it before.
Um, yeah, I've definitely had people reach out to me and ask if I could write something about them. I mean, essentially, it's a eulogy, is it not?
Right, yeah.
I feel guilty because sometimes I just have to I can't. Sometimes I can't. Like, look, Robb knows I'm very open about this. I'm a type 1 bipolar. Um, I'm very open about the mental health aspect. I'm medicated. I try to meditate. I try to keep my head on right and stay uh, in nature. But yeah, I used to tell people it's fine. It doesn't affect me. I'm comfortable in dark places just because of childhood stuff. But I realize yeah, it does weigh on me.
Yeah, it has to.
Yeah, but it's like it's worth it. It's worth it. I don't care if it fucking hurts. I volunteered with kids in the system. I used to compete in Muay Thai, and I volunteered with kids in the foster care system that were like at risk, essentially, or real bad abuse situations. Like sex trafficking would be the lightest thing that they had gone through,
Oh wow.
and people were like, "I don't know how you can deal with this, having to lose them constantly or them being shuffled around." It's like, yeah, it hurt, but it's like, look, if you're gonna hurt or you're gonna give your soul, I'm gonna give it for somebody else. Like, again, I just spent so much of my 20s doing like we all did and being so fucking selfish and so self-consumed. And I hurt a lot of people that cared about me. I can't get those years back, but I just realized something my mother told me really early on. She goes, if you would just stop fixating on your own misery, and if you get out and help someone, I think you would find that in there you will start to find healing. And it's the only thing I've ever done helping the kids or uh, writing these songs that ever made me feel really that positive. If you want me to be honest, I know that's a
Yeah.
heavy statement, but I don't know. I feel like I can't really quit. I feel like I have to.
Well, again, I feel like, you know, you've been put here to kind of carry out this mission to an extent, right? Um, it's heavy.
Yeah,
That's heavy.
it doesn't make for light podcast fodder.
It's okay. That's okay.
Why we like the music because it's just as heavy after
It's
the
true.
nice piano stuff, you know.
the music is great. I mean, I got caught up in the music and not enough into like the lyrics. Um, so unfortunately, I don't know. I wasn't able. I just got again consumed by the music. So, um, after you write these songs and you record them, do you let these people know that these specific songs are, about what they've gone through or who they messaged you about and how, um, what's the response like to that?
Largely no.
Okay.
One or two exceptions. And it's what you might imagine. They're really gracious, and I don't know. They seem really thankful and really gracious, and they're just sweet and sincere. And but I can't write about everyone's tragedy. I have to be able to connect to that somehow. Because I'll be honest, if I get on this microphone and I dim down these lights and have a beer and I'm trying to sing and I'm not connecting with it, you can literally hear it back on the fucking recording.
Mhm.
I don't know how to describe it, but sometimes I can't attach my personal feelings to whatever that loss was.
Right.
Um, I was writing recently about losing a child, and I'm not a woman. I never lost a child. My mother, I had a brother. He passed away before I was born. He was very, very small. Um, and I was trying to write a song for the brother I never met. I couldn't put myself in that headspace. And I thought, I just can't do it. This isn't working. It sounds contrived. But then I did what I do, which is like kind of affect my mind with a couple of very mild chemical alterations. got into a certain headspace before I sang, and attached instead a foster child that I lost to an addict mother that he was returned to, and got back with the father who uh, beat her and pimped her out for money so he could afford meth. And she stayed clean long enough to get little Robbie back, and they took him from me. And um, last thing I heard, they're back together, and he's using again, and she's doing whatever. So I was able to put that into, that made me connect to the song. And there's a song that we have up. It was a single called Robbie's Song, uh, last uh, uh, last flowers to the gravestone. That's one that it doesn't get a lot of love in our catalog, but uh, that song, at the end of that song, I fucking was like, I was fucked up for the rest of the day. Um, but I got it. I nailed it. I nailed it. I was able to put my soul out there, but I just can't make that connection to everybody's story. I just can't. I try to empathize, but sometimes I just can't go where you've gone, mentally.
Yeah. Is it safe to say that, um, some of these songs are fiction, or are they all real life
They're all
scenarios?
true. If there's anything remotely fictional,
Oh,
it's a true story. And then I explore the concept of why that person either succeeded or failed, why they were lost, explore the concept of the justice or the light they brought into the world, or explore the idea of why they left this world, and that maybe things could have been differently, could have gone differently if maybe people had intervened, or if there hadn't been substance involved, or if they hadn't been abused as children. I don't, I can't write fictions because I can't connect to it.
hmm. Yeah, I wasn't sure if like, you were able to like kind of like create the scenarios where, you know, a child was going through or whatever, and you wrote about it that way. I didn't realize that these were all like real life things.
Yep, yep, they
Dude,
are.
how do you sleep?
I know. I don't.
Seriously, I mean that's like so heavy. Like I
I have
I
horrible sleep. I
I
have
can't
sleep
imagine.
apnea.
Like
I wake up all night long, but I'm a bipolar. Like I don't fucking sleep anyway. I wake up at 3:30 a.m. and have these crazy ideas, and I'll go record something on this microphone in the dead ass of night, and I'll stay up and then go about my day, and I'll pass out and drool for 3 hours at 2 p.m.
Hmm.
But I don't know that it's, oh man. I think I have enough weight on my shoulders that I still haven't dealt with. I'm just now starting to look at as a grown man, that maybe I just don't feel the additional rocks being put in the backpack. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I just went through a little too much and kind of scarred over. And I think that the weight of taking on other people's burdens, I don't know. It just doesn't seem to. I don't know. I feel it. I know it's probably not good for me, but I feel like it's worth. I'm sorry, I can't find my words.
Well, is some of this a form of therapy though, to a degree? Like being able to, write these songs and kind of honor these individuals or share their story. Is there
Um,
is there a bit of a therapeutic essence to that for you?
I mean, I suppose so. Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine, right?
Yeah. It definitely makes you get outside of your own head. Um, if you have internal chaos, you at least want external peace, right?
Right.
But when I sing about those things, like I said at the beginning, I don't know. Music never seems to really heal anything that much. When you're growing up, you always hear these singers or these guitar players talk about music allows me to express my emotions and talk about my demons, indicating there was some sense of relief after they did it. I just never felt that. I never felt any better. I love making music. I love performing music to various degrees. but I never walked away feeling like I was able to get anything off my chest. And it wasn't until I started writing down these stories and writing the music for Stoneside that I started to feel at least a little bit of that
Right.
musically. And maybe it's because I got out of my own head and realized that I can find more purpose, maybe contributing more to thoughts and concepts and discussions than my own personal fucking misery.
Yeah.
I sound like I'm a really depressed guy, and I struggle, but like I have great happy moments. I don't want your listeners to think that I'm gonna go leave this podcast and put a gun in my mouth. You know,
No, no, I don't get that vibe. Um,
I
uh,
just I'm comfortable in dark places, and
yeah, I mean,
if I can be the voice, then I'll be the voice. It gives me a reason to live.
well, I was gonna ask you why do you keep going? If you're not finding, peace in it, if you're not finding like, happiness, like why continue doing it? But you kind of said after that, like you
Well,
do do
it's also that I can't stop. I
right.
can't if I don't do this obsessively. We have 3 albums worth of material recorded that I just sit on. I get up, I make myself write for 20 minutes every day, and then I leave and I come back to it. And it's a coping mechanism because if I know that if I don't do this, I know I'm going to go and, maybe not do the best for myself.
Hmm.
I just can't. Music is my mistress. I just can't give her up,
Hmm.
man. She's horrible for me. She's
Which is also
temperamental.
the best.
She's mercurial, but my God,
Yeah.
this woman can kiss, So I keep on coming back to this crazy bitch.
Yeah. That's what that happens. Rob, how do you fit into this puzzle here?
It keeps me
Um,
in check.
yeah, I mean, like this whole band sounds like it's an interesting dynamic. Like this isn't like a band that comes together and hey, let's write a pop song or let's there's a lot of
Blueberries.
layers here. Is it the
Our,
blueberries?
our goal is to start writing 3-minute bangers, but no, I'm just kidding. Um,
That's an inside joke.
Yeah.
this was for me, I think it's like my 10th band. I don't know if that sounds good or bad. But I think I played my first live show in winter of 2001. And aside from a few months here and there, I've always had some project that I was working on, either writing or playing live or recording or something. So I don't think I could quit music if I tried. And
Yeah.
luckily, in 2020, the band I was in, we finished the album we were working on, and there were still no shows. So I had a lot of help getting set up with Twitch and Discord, live streaming, and all that. Because normally I'd be out 3 weekends every month playing at least 1 to 3 shows in here in Louisiana, Dallas, wherever. Um, and so the that was great. I needed that, just writing stuff using the pre-programmed drums on Logic and all that. Fridays I would do like a full album playthrough of my old band, and then summer of 2022 got in touch with David, started learning a whole batch of new songs, and that was really cool too. The universe was like, "You're doing this now," so I don't try to understand it, but obviously I love the style and all that, and it's very different the amount of detail that goes into the full songs, and then I just try to do it like the live version, 5 string, 6 string bass, pedals, all that stuff.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, that was weird. It
Yeah,
just shorted out, guys. I apologize. You are getting me right.
yeah, I heard something kind of happen, but yeah, it was faint.
Yeah, Rob. It like glitched. I didn't mean to cut you off, brother.
Are you good? You're good. But yeah, a whole batch of new songs to learn, different styles, really different song arrangements. That was the main thing I noticed. One of the first songs I learned was Integrity versus Despair, and it's more like a little experience. It's not like a verse pre-chorus chorus verse pre-chorus chorus all that. It's it's more just a ride. So that was interesting. Just new. I'm used to just kind of learning the usual formula, 2 to 3.5 choruses and an outro. And here it's like no different. This is much more organic, I guess. So
Yeah, because that shit's boring.
yeah, and
Shit's boring. That shit sucks.
we lucked into when I first started. We were getting a hourly practice rooms at a rehearsal space in Houston. And turns out one of my old drummers had a room that he used. It was a monthly room, but he's gone every weekend playing with a country band, so he's never there. So he was like, "Yeah, y'all can share my room." I was like, "Sweet." So we had like a home base, and then I was like, "Okay, now it was going to be a side project. Now this is the project." I actually don't live far from there, which is a really nice change compared to previous projects. So yeah, it's called the band barracks. They get 5 stars from me every time. They're great.
Nice.
I was gonna
Nice.
say, it's the whole thing is weird. The fact that me and Rob connected, the fact that we're talking to Sumerian records, like, I mean, God, they have fucking Bad Omens, Between the Buried and Me, Animals as Leaders. I think they released Crosses, like Chino's project. Right, Rob? Didn't they do Crosses?
I'm pretty sure.
Um, and like everyone talks about how, you got to be young, you got to be beautiful, you have to build this massive following, you need to be a TikTok star, you need to do this and that. They hopped in our inbox like it was 2005. Like, we're
Hmm.
just like, hey, we like your shit. What's your email address? Stupid setup.
And and you are signing with that label?
Oh, no,
Oh,
we have a contract on the table. We've
oh,
countered it.
cool. Okay.
And they said, so they kind of reversed engineered this. For those of your listeners, it's usually they come see you first. It's not me and Rob's first dance with the whole label thing.
Right.
I'm just talking from my own personal experiences, but usually it's they want to see you first, kind of have you prove your mettle, and then they put an offer down. They gave us a contract sight unseen, and then they kind of reverse engineered it. We countered what they were asking, and they're like, "Has anybody even seen them live?" And they were like, "No." And the A&R guy we're talking to, Michael Jacobo, shout out Mike, I know you're gonna watch this. Um, was like, "All right, we got to get y'all up to Nashville around our headquarters, and we need you to do a show for our executives." And that's where we're at right now. We're 2 weeks out,
And you do
but
the show or the show's coming up?
we're going to do the show in 2 weeks. We're going to travel
Okay.
up to Nashville, day up, play, day back, and then resume contract stuff. But I'll be honest with you, man. If any of your listeners are out there, musicians, I'm going to just put this out there in the universe. Everything they fucking told you was a lie. Someone wins the lottery. Every day, people defy the odds. Don't let any fucking person tell you that you're too old for this or not talented enough for that. Like, you're the one in the coffin at the end of the day by yourself, and they're not in there with you. So you go and fucking get yours. Me and Rob aren't in our 20s. We're not 22. We're not TikTok stars. I think Stoneside had 3,000 followers. At the highest, we had 20,000 streams, which we felt good about without any promotion. But at the end of the day, like, it ain't shit compared to what some people have.
Right.
We haven't had to grind ourselves into the fucking ground touring to get attention. But also, unlike some bands, like, we weren't gifted this. We've put in fucking years of work
Years.
just in
Yeah.
other bands.
Yeah.
But look, if anybody's out there thinking they shouldn't go for it, you fucking should. You should. What's stopping you? You can win too. And
That that's interesting you say that though, because like a lot of bands think that they have to be doing, the TikToks and they have to have this social media following of, 30,000 plus followers or whatever the hell it might be. You disagree?
no, okay, so let me make that clear. That's clearly the game that everyone's playing now. Let's not fool ourselves.
Right.
However, every once in a while, somebody goes out on a limb because they feel so confident and are so in love with what you do. It could be your visual art, it could be your writing. Somebody reads your novel and they're like, "This is so fucking good. What's wrong with you? Go get this shit published." I mean, hell, when I come across one of my friends who makes art, like does art, my friend Ryan does art for beer companies, microbrews out of here, and he's so fucking good. I get excited for him. I get on fire. I want to push his stuff. Like, there are people out there who will hear your music, your writing, see your visual art, and they'll probably have more love for it than you do.
Mhm.
And that should be all the spark on that kerosene you need to be like, I think I might have something. And then go get it. Go get it.
And what do you think makes you guys stand apart from other, not having the TikTok thing? And yes, you have a lot of experience and you guys are very talented and great music. is there anything else you think that kind of sets you apart from
I don't know. That
the
might be
others?
one for Robbie. I think I'm a little too close to the subject, to be honest. I mean, I really mean that. I couldn't tell you because it's not,
That's fair.
it's not objective.
I
Go ahead,
understand.
Rob.
Yeah. I mean, well, personally, just I like the style. There's a lot of soft, a lot of heavy. A lot of bands are just heavy for 5 minutes straight. You
Yeah.
know, and the whole album's like that. So having that variety, I think, is you could say, I guess, more digestible, easier to listen to. You appreciate the piano more when you have the heavy, and vice versa.
Right.
When I started learning, and the songs was like, oh, this is cool. This is right up my alley. My buddy showed me, a couple songs that one night, and I liked it before I was in touch with them. So I was already a fan. So it makes it a little easier.
As far as the musical aspect goes, I guess what I can add to that is, um, I don't know. My love of my dad giving me records and stuff when we were driving through the country growing up, he would just go to the CD store or he'd buy a record and he would just go snag whatever was on the top 10. And, when I was a little boy, he went and bought Depeche Mode and like Tears for Fears. And he listened to like a couple songs. He's like, "Ass trash. You'll probably like it." And true story. Thanks, Dad. And so I got Depeche Mode. What was it? Violator and Tears for Fears songs from the Big Chair. And then after that, it was into trip hop. When I got a little older, Portishead, Massive Attack. I just fucking ate those sounds up. They were so different and so dark. And of course, then I grew up in the metal scene listening to, Converge, thrash like Machine Head, Pantera, Texas guys like us, and just completely violent, chaotic music, Dillinger Escape Plan, Vision of Disorder. And as I got older, I veered. I loved moments of violence, but I also loved moments of reprieve. I wasn't angry at the whole fucking world anymore, you know? And they say oftentimes that men get mad because men greet those things with anger. They say because they put it in place of hurt. And I think that's what I was doing. And so with Stoneside, I settled more into the quiets to kind of soothe me. And then we wind up to the explosion again. So the idea of Stoneside is I'm telling the story about someone's life. Fast and heavy the whole time is not, it's not the diversity of emotion that a person has. I need to be able to try to cover the array of their experience. I can't do it with breakdown after breakdown. Like I love Alpha Wolf. If I'm at the gym, I turn on Agudama and just fucking try to bench press the whole ceiling. But I can't rock with that shit constantly all the time.
Right.
Breakdown after breakdown after breakdown. It's fucking meaningless. So I don't know. I like music that builds tension. And I want to build and relieve tension. I want my listener to be uncomfortable.
Well, I was going to ask you who your influences were, and you answered that without me asking. So thank you.
Oh, Deftones
Okay.
and Loathe.
All right.
Loathe is a big one.
Okay. Rob, how about you?
I don't
Uh,
actually know this, Rob.
any, I mean, range of stuff. I think one of the first CDs. My brother, he's like 18 months younger than me. So after church every Sunday, we'd go to Warehouse Music.
Hey.
Yes, down on 1960, and they had where you could go listen to it. Like you go preview it in the store, and
Oh, the on the wall. Yeah.
yeah,
You
Yeah, I
said that
remember
at
that.
Barnes and Noble too. Believe
Yeah,
that.
they did. Yeah, I remember that.
and so we would just grab random stuff or something we had heard of.
Yes.
We heard on the. I think the first CD I had was Nirvana's Unplugged in New York. No, actually,
Hey,
sorry, the first CD I had was Ace of Base, and the second one
All
was
right.
that's everybody's.
Unplugged in New York.
That's fair.
I think
I didn't
mine
have
was
this.
Nirvana in Utero.
Yeah, we didn't have a CD player, but we got our new computer that had a CD-ROM, so that's where we were listening to stuff,
Nice.
initially. But Nirvana's Nevermind was one of my big ones.
Yeah.
Cranberries actually, I think was my first rock show at the Woodlands. My mom
Oh
took
shit.
my brother and myself and a friend, and we saw the Cranberries and Toad the Wet Sprocket thing. It was my
Oh
first
man,
rock show. Yeah,
Damn, Robbie.
I love Toad the Wet Sprocket.
yeah, it was a good time. Um, but yeah, the rock stuff. Nevermind. Like I said, Nevermind was huge. Unplugged in New York. Um, Stone Temple Pilots, was it Core or their fourth album, whatever, the one with the star on it with Dead and Bloated on there.
Okay.
Oh, I think it. Mhm.
Big first, fave of mine. Rage Against the Machine.
Fuck yeah.
Actually, the Last Action Hero soundtrack. Remember that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Oh man, that
Hero?
movie was amazing.
That soundtrack had Alice in Chains, Megadeth,
Yes.
Anthrax, Cypress Hill, like this
Take
whole.
take that and drop in the Crow and the Crow 2 soundtrack.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
That was
That was another thing. My brother and I, we loved movies and music and put them together, and all just that was a big early love of ours before the iPads and everything. We were just be playing something while
Dude,
it was on TV and whatever.
how amazing was it when you had a soundtrack to a movie that was like just I remember was it Batman Forever? One of the Batmans was had a great soundtrack, but like yes, Last Action Hero was a great movie, great music behind it. Like those that I would go out and buy soundtracks to movies. I don't think it even exists anymore.
our keyboard Matt. He'll download the whole score. He'll listen to the score.
Yeah.
Yeah, he loves like anything Hans Zimmer does. I think he did something in Batman.
He did the
Um,
Dark Knight trilogy.
was it? Yeah. Okay. So our keyboardist Matt, synthesizer and whatnot, he loves shit like that. He's a big cinema guy, and it has a huge tie-in to the sounds he makes.
But I think back in the day, like they would have like big name artists write songs for the movie, or they would use songs they already had written for the movie. And I think that was a big kind of a selling point almost. Like, oh, the
Well,
Green Day's in this film.
21 Pilots, Heathens, I think they wrote for specifically for
The
Suicide
Joker.
Squad.
Yes,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, and that's a fucking great song. Heathen's an awesome song.
Yeah.
I think he just pulled that one out of his ass and was like, here's a hit.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I think that was it the Batman Returns one or one with the Joker had a whole bunch of Prince songs in there or something like that.
no shit, I didn't
So
know that.
everybody would buy like the soundtrack, but they weren't buying the the recording of the scores, all the hit songs from
Just the
that.
hit songs. Yeah.
Mm.
I was one of those guys. I would literally go to the record store to buy the soundtrack.
Yeah,
What a ti-
We were the old school guys, all of us.
what a time to be alive.
We're dead and dying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, my kids, I
So
got two
sad.
young kids. One will be 7 in a few weeks. My daughter just turned 2 a few months ago.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, they're the best thing, best part of my life. That's why I do these so late. I make sure that I come home from work, we do dinner, we do, books and bath time and homework if there's homework, all that shit.
I
And
just sucked down a plate full of vegetables and threw my son in bed so that I could get here. So
well, I
when you
appreciate
proposed
that
this
too.
time,
I
congratulations.
know you're a couple of hours
Rob is a
behind
dad
me.
too.
You're a couple hours behind me, so I appreciate you taking you're making the sacrifice for me.
Well, if he comes in here, just fair warning, he's gonna throw his flamboyant ass right in front of this camera. I'm gonna have to wrestle him to the damn ground.
That's fine. We'll keep it in. We'll be the first father-son wrestling match on the Popko Project.
Oh, he can beat my ass.
Good. Good.
I got a bad back, man.
There you go. But
I was gonna say to something we discussed earlier. I couldn't really speak on it because I hadn't really thought on it. But you asked about what made us different, and I deferred to Rob. And then a thought occurred to me. Um, I think I think people try to write music that's like this, but I think you go out there like the Mars Volta, and sometimes it can be a little self-indulgent, and that's fine. Express your art, but you might end up losing some people along the way, and it just depends. The reasons that you're writing. Is it about for yourself, as it should be, and then but are people going to be able to go down that long sonic path with you? You shouldn't dumb it down for an attention span, but it is like writing a movie. I mean, if you want to touch people, you want to keep them engaged, but also be true to yourself. I got so burned out on rock and metal that for years I just stopped listening to it. I just moved away. I started listening to mostly rap and kind of went back into the catalog to the Depeche Mode, Tears for Fears, Joy Division. And then during the pandemic, when I started putting those songs together with the heavy shit again, maybe it's because I went through a lot. I had gone through my worst episode of bipolar, and that's what got me diagnosed. Losing my job and drinking. Uh, I think I just stopped giving a fuck. I just stopped giving a fuck, and I was like, why don't people combine these styles? Like, what's the big deal? Why doesn't this exist? I'm just gonna I'm gonna use all the sounds that I can if I think they're appropriate to try to connect with the person that I'm singing about and the person that hopefully that can help. So while it's not incredibly left of center Stoneside, like we're not out there forging new fucking paths or anything. Um, I just feel like I don't know why people aren't going out more on limbs. Why is the heavy music community so afraid to put a piano or a soft horn or some nice pad sounds? Like this might sound not that novel, but it really still is. Like the
Yeah.
overwhelming majority of heavy bands, it's if they're quiet for a second, you're just like, wow, it's really, really courageous, really brave, you know? And it's like, why can't you allow silence to set in that negative space? Like, don't have to go full money. Like it's edging, you know, it's sit in that moment for a second, absorb those sounds and be quiet and then wind up the hurricane. Like it's okay. It doesn't have to be violent the whole time. You're not violent every day. That's not who you really are.
Yeah.
So I just felt like I don't want to do that anymore. And you can't write a heavy song about every person who's passed away because they're not all violent. And so
Yeah.
I just said, fuck it. I'm going to throw all these genres together and I'm going to try to make it work.
I think the extra sound synths is or genre blending as well, because whenever I hear the opening of Once, I keep thinking it's like a Kid Cudi song. I'm like, what is this? What's it sound like this? And I have yet to pinpoint the song, but so that just in itself is this kind of very major swelling, upward motion thing, very like major feel.
Heavily fuck
Yeah,
with Kid Cudi.
yeah.
If my listeners were, okay, they're tuned in, they're listening to the story of Stoneside. Um, before they went and tuned in, like what could they expect from the music? Like what would you, if you had like a minute to explain to them what this was all about, like what would you,
Rob?
well, yeah, what would you kind of like describe it as?
I don't know. I mean, every song is an experience. I mean, it's a story. Every song is a story, but these are, more the ups and downs and the build up and the after effect. Like I said, the reason I was drawn to it was because there was this, a lot of empty space, soft stuff, a lot of heavy stuff, a good mix in every song, story, a ride, sort of, and transferring it live obviously is, I mean, I like writing, recording, rehearsing, but live shows, like, for me, where it's at. You've done all the work all week, everybody's, scheduled and planned and practiced. Now here it is, let's go do it for those 30 45 minutes that we get on stage. For me, that's where it's at. So the fact that there is so much, just keys, and then everybody just on the with the kick drum and chunky genty stuff, the full range of emotions in each song, pretty much.
Yeah, for 30 minutes, you get to go on stage and you can be mentally ill and insane and you can move around and yell, but it's okay when you're there.
That's the
You
point.
can't, you can't do that in the real world. So when you play live, congratulations. It's carte blanche. The crazier you are, the more the audience loves it. And you can just let it all out, man. This is
Yeah.
the place. Go fucking crazy. And I know Robbie, he's like a live player. That's what he does. That's his passion. Um, I I don't know. I'll tell you, it was really interesting early on when they were playlisting us. They were like, "You're too heavy for soft, and you're too soft for heavy." That was a direct quote.
Okay.
We had a distribution deal through Blood Blast, and which I wish I would have thought more about, but um, a lot of promises and whatnot. I bit the hook, and really nothing came of it. And they claim that playlisters just weren't interested because of that thing. Like it was too slow, too winding. There was not a breakdown, so we weren't on the metalcore playlist. And then conversely, the down-tuned violence and the guitars in these recordings are really like chaotic. It was too much for people who wanted like harder rock or more relaxed stuff. So it definitely, for better or worse, like we sound different. I mean, we get compared in the same space to Loathe, Sleep Token, and Spirit Box and Deftones,
Yeah.
but very peripherally.
I think that is also a big point that the support from the other bands, fan pages and fan groups, those are places to share music. Stoneside's got their own group for sharing, as well. But the big ones, I think that really got noticed that from other people interested in the industry. I think that was a big sign for them, was the support coming from the fans. You know, it wasn't like you said, we weren't on a bunch of playlists for various reasons, but the people that did dig into it were willing to share it and talk about it and help spread it. So
Can I speak to that for a second?
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, not short on passion. I'm a singer. We're all fucked
This
up.
is about you guys. This is about you guys. Please, I'd rather you talk than me.
Thank you. um, yeah, back to the whole TikTok star thing. Like, if you go down the YouTube rabbit hole, all these experts who literally have represented nobody, but they can put up a good YouTube video, are like, the ways to get signed in 2024. Like, that's the fucking end all be all. And it's all the same. It's all the same thing. And you'll have a billion musicians in the comments section, and then you realize how many of us they are. And with the ability to record in your home now, like, this market is saturated. Everyone can record. I mean,
Right.
I don't know shit. I'm horribly impatient with technology. I throw shit across the room and cuss out the TV if it doesn't work right. I might even punch it. But somehow I taught my simple ass to record. Um, if I can do it, then people are out there putting out incredible records, and you realize you are now just another fish in a massive pond, way more so than even 10 years ago. And you'll see all the comment section and see how it's such an uphill battle. So I don't want to make it sound like, oh, we worked our asses off and how did you get here? And you do that famine mentality thing where you just go, just keep grinding, or just keep grinding, bro. It's not it. We got lucky. Like, we got lucky to be in the position we are. But it was because Michael Jacobo and Craig Erickson from Sumerian Records loved what they heard and were willing to take a risk on us, like back in the day. They weren't doing what these labels do now, where they slip in, look at your numbers, and be like, not profitable enough yet. Oh, hey, I see you're doing all your own thing and you don't really need us, but do you mind if we step in and kind of capitalize on your hard work?
Right.
Like, sure. I'm going to need a really favorable contract then. Um, they didn't do that with us. They did it the old fashioned way. They reached out and they are willing to take a risk on us. We're not a proven commodity. But again, me and Robb aren't 22. Ain't none of us in this band in our 20s. And if it can happen for us, it can happen for anybody. And I hope if we end up going through with this and signing with Sumerian, we're also talking to Hopeless Records a little bit.
Oh, cool.
I hope we can reach out and help other people, man. Like, truly, like graphic design artists, visual artists, any kind of collaborative project where we especially can bring Texas artists to the forefront. Like, it's not the fucking DC show. Like, it's about the music and the art.
Yeah.
And I think we've been set apart in many, many different ways. But really, I think also it's just serendipitous luck.
luck favors the prepared.
There's a quote. I like that one.
Stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
That's good too. There's a quote that I've tried to repeat. I don't know how many times on this fucking podcast, but I fail every time.
As soon as you get off, it's going to come to you.
Nah, I'm not even gonna
You
try.
damn well know it.
But yeah, but like, it's okay that it's something about like, you know, luck is when I fucking God damn it. I don't know. Being prepared, like when the opportunity comes, like,
Sure.
you
Well,
know,
And a lot of
I'm
times
sure.
you
I'm
you
sure.
don't know what you're preparing for. You're just doing the work that, like, okay, 10 years, 10,000 hours. That's what they say. Right?
yeah, like the
It'll
work's put
show
in,
up.
like,
But
it's like operate. Oh no, I should look it up. I have the ability.
Luck is
DC, you're
when
gonna say something,
opportunity meets preparedness or something like that.
something like that.
Yeah.
I want to say, with this many people swimming in the pond of art and music these days, just out of their home studios where they don't even have to go play live, which is a battle in and of itself. A lot of musicians will never be able to play live because they're scared to get on stage. It's fucking terrifying. It's part of the reason I wear masks or paint my face. But the reason I would encourage people and be like, well, what if I try and I fail anyway? What a waste of time. No, because if you go for it, even if you don't end up, if your goal is to get on a record label or sign with a major management company, you're still engaging in a process that you'll ultimately grow from. If you were to walk away from that, you might not learn the lessons. Like this binary idea of I want to get signed, I didn't get signed, I failed. Like what a stupid way of viewing things.
Yeah,
It's okay to meander. You'll learn so much about yourself. Like it's not, oh, no one's going to pay attention to my music, I give it up. Well, that's fine if you want to give it up, but don't let it be because you didn't make it. Like not making it is not a failure.
yeah.
Walking away with your head down, being like, "Oh, I didn't get signed, so therefore I'm not legitimate." Who made up that stupid fucking idea?
I think people are afraid of failure, and it's
But the
you know,
definition of failure needs to change.
I think
well, I mean,
you
also
gotta you
like,
gotta shoot high, but be realistic in a time frame. I think a lot of people get in their first band and they spend years in it, and if that band ends, it's devastating. It's like, well,
That's
yes,
fair.
and
well, it could be,
that's part of it. You got it now. You know what you've learned from this band because the next band's going to be possibly wildly different. All new people, new styles, new setup. And it's like, well, it worked in this band. It doesn't work here. Learn
yeah.
something. You know.
100%.
They say too, like, there's no such thing as failure. It's just like, it's learning experiences. Like, you just,
There's a there's an athletic phrase. Robb wrestled and I kickboxed, and so we're familiar with the grinding mentality. And one of those quotes that helps me is there's win instead of saying there's wins and there's losses, it says well, there's wins and then there's lessons. And
exactly,
they almost always say, I have learned way more from any loss I've taken than any win.
of
Because you don't
course.
go in back and examine your wins. You look at your losses and you
Yeah.
learn from them and you come back stronger.
What could you do better? Yeah. And that's important. But people are so afraid of failing and they just don't even start. It's like, just start. Like,
That's a big battle in and of itself, right? Having the confidence to put your
sure.
fingers on these fucking keys for the first time and then share that with someone so you can get disemboweled on the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, our friend Poss the Boss, PTB Empire, he's a YouTuber. He's been a big supporter of us. The things people have to say, because we're friends of his, and he'll screenshot these comments. Like he is putting his heart and soul out there. He's making his own music. And these people will just come into the comments section and say shit like if you said that in front of him in real life, he'd turn your fucking jaw sideways.
Yeah. They're just pussies.
Yes, they are. They're pussies. Everyone's an internet warrior until you get a motherfucker in your face and suddenly you don't want to play anymore.
That's, I
Um,
mean, Jason
but
Kelsey from well, formerly of the Eagles, just, he smashed someone's phone because they were calling his brother an F word for whatever he's dating Taylor Swift. And he grabbed the kid's phone and he smashed it. And he goes, "Who's the faggot now?" And I'm just quoting him. I'm not saying that
no, man,
it's inappropriate,
minus
but
the use of the word, I can't hate the dude for
right.
it.
But
But
it's like,
going out there and putting your art out there where people can anonymously disembowel you,
yeah,
like you said, it does take tremendous balls. That's a huge step in and of itself.
yes,
That's also
And
new
look,
as well. They used to have to hate at you from the stage. At least they were at your show. Now
that's
right.
true.
And
Yeah.
then you
it's
can go down there and smash him in the face if you
it's,
want.
Look,
it's the
I know
worst
we're
part of
going
it.
off the rails with it, but
Mm-mm.
that's also the problem with being a musician now is that the same symptom that you get across the internet is particularly true of musicians. Everyone's a fucking tough guy or girl behind a keyboard.
Hmm.
When we were making music back in the day and touring, like you might have one drunk, ballsy son of a bitch in the crowd who was yelling something derogatory. But
Sure.
then when you walked off that stage, if you were a certain type of person, either the heckler or the musicians, you better be fucking ready to back that shit up. And that might sound uncivilized, but
It's
all
not.
right, I
It's
guess I'm white trash. Like if you're gonna
no.
talk
You
shit,
gotta be.
I'll
You
be like,
gotta be.
hey, I can meet you on the side of the stage when we're done if you want to have a discussion about your opinion.
But you're
You
not.
know,
It's you're being held accountable for
yeah.
your actions, and that's
And,
what
and
we've
people are like
lost, I think.
they're just words, but no, they're not really just words.
No.
They're not words. We've seen what that shit ends up doing to people.
Yep.
The new people just camping out the internet and just slandering people making their music and putting art out there. Like, you won't say this shit in real life. You won't.
Exactly.
Let's be real. Stop. You're a
Yeah.
coward. Stop.
That's the big downside of technology is the keyboard warrior or the cell phone soldier. Yeah.
Well, we've had people say horrible shit to us. I mean, luckily we haven't. Rob, have you ever really been heckled? Like, I think maybe 3 times in my whole musical career I've been heckled. That I can.
I mean, nothing I didn't understand. But like I have a guitar that's got a built-in sustainer, and I used it twice at a show. And at the very end, and I heard somebody in the crowd go, "We already saw this," and I was like, downbeat into the show, whatever. But I mean, people yell stuff. Some people, if they got time to hate, they're probably not doing much else.
Right.
Really wish that every hater had to like contribute something. Like, what'd you do today? Like, did you draw something, a doodle on a napkin? I don't care. Show me what you did today. Nothing. Okay. Well, other people are out here trying to, put the best foot forward every day with new songs, videos, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I went to defend. We are interestingly spread across the political spectrum in this band. And I am kind of in a weird space where everyone hates me. I'm what you call a centrist, which is this mythological creature, apparently.
Sure.
Although my bandmate tries to tell me that's not what I am. That I don't know. That's what I think I am. And I just kind of they were attacking, Joe Rogan and living in. Oh, he moved to Texas. He became ultra conservative, and he's a right wing pundit. And I'm like, look, I get it. He's clearly starting to lean that way. However, he's also had incredible leftward, incredibly influential speakers on the left that he's given them an audience and a platform. Are we just going to completely disembowel the fact that he's had, Neil deGrasse Tyson on there,
right?
Sam Harris. I'm not sure Sam Harris's leanings, but he's had Ted Nugent all the way to all the guys from the Innocence Project.
He had Bernie on there too, didn't he?
I'm sorry?
Did he have Bernie Sanders on there?
Yes, he did.
Oh, yeah. And then he put Donald Trump on there, and everyone's like, you fucking piece of shit. And I'm just like, are you serious? You really going to throw out the baby with the bathwater? And so I wrote that. I said, actually, he's had on a bunch of leftward leaning people. He's had on a bunch of scientists. He had on Paul Stamets, what got me into mycology, like reading about fungi.
Yep.
And the guy's like, your fucking band sucks. How do Joe Rogan's nuts taste? And all this other shit.
Jesus Christ.
We had a state of the scene podcast really early on. I followed them on social media, and I like what they do. And they posted the album Amo from Bring Me the Horizon, and it was some meme about this is the greatest album ever released. All I wrote on there was like, I didn't care for this record too much. It's just my opinion, sempiternal, blah blah blah. And dude, that guy fucking just tore me to shreds. And he must have been having a bad day. Like maybe his wife was leaving him or something.
Yeah,
he went ham, dude. And he took off to my band's physical appearance. He made fun of our music. And I was like, damn, dude, people are really out here. Like,
yeah,
people are really out here letting this internet get to them.
But
myself included.
You thought you were allowed to have an opinion because that's your first mistake, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I think one of the things also that plagues Stoneside is I get a lot of messages about, are y'all a religious band? But it's like, you can't separate passing away in this planet without the idea of the afterlife. You're going to get heavy religious iconography. Mm-hmm. I was raised in a Christian household, even though I no longer have that belief. There's the Muslim afterlife, the Hindu afterlife, and then there's simply the atheistic discussion of what is it worth when I pass? And so people oftentimes reach out to me, and one thing that bothers me is I've gotten a lot of messages stereotyping, and I said, do you mind if I ask why you thought we were a Christian band? Like, oh, I saw the cross in your video because we shot our first record our first video in a church. And then it was, oh, and then you guys are from Texas. I'm like, I can't fucking stand that, man. Do you think we all ride our cactus to work and hang colored people from trees? Like,
Jesus Christ.
Like, come on, man.
I think there's a few parts lyrically that people really attach it to as well.
Sorry, the stereotype of the whole Texas thing, like, plagues the band to a certain extent.
I get it.
I think Terra Lingua has like one line that says like "Save me, Heavenly Father," and someone was like, "Oh, well, then they must be." It's like, no,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
message. That's a part of the story in the song. That
Yeah.
Yes. But there's definitely back to the point. We've definitely had like a bunch of people push on us in the internet, and
Well, I
I will say
guess,
it's interesting because we do occupy. I'll quote Michael Jacobo from Sumerian Records. He said, "You occupy a space that not a lot of musicians are making right now, but that there is something there that people are wanting to hear." And then he mentioned Loathe, Sleep Token, the bands we talked about, Spirit Box. And so, since we're in a small pool and I happen to paint my face and Robb wears a mask, we're now Sleep Token. We sound nothing like Sleep Token.
mhm.
I'm not as good a singer as that dude. I don't listen to R&B or pop really, and I hear no new wave or dark wave in their music. But that's one of the number one insults that we get, which I think is a compliment. Half my band likes Sleep Token. I think they're fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get shit on as like, oh, you're Cowboy Sleep Token, or you're like
I kind of like that.
Texas's answer to Sleep Token. I'm like, I don't
That's
know. That
funny.
sounds pretty fucking dope if you want me to be
Yeah.
honest.
Well, I mean, that's what's going to happen. I mean, you guys are out there, you're creating, you know, you're making an impact, and that's what people are going to do. They're going to fucking shit on it because they're fucking jealous or they're living in their mom's basement or whatever the fuck they're doing.
Well, here now, hold on now, Scranton. You're up in the Northeast. We don't have basements down here. You dig that deep, you're
Oh
drowning.
yeah. Oh yeah.
You're going to hit oil,
I'm
you're
in a
going to
basement
hit
right
a
now.
woolly mammoth, or you're going to hit water.
I'm in a basement right now.
Are you?
Looks dope.
Hey, tell your mom I said what's up.
No, I'm a 42-year-old man with a wife and two children and a dog and a cat and a white picket fence.
I'll drink to that.
I did this on my own.
Hey, it's it's it is interesting though to navigate the idea of touring though now that we're all parents.
Yeah,
When
it's
you were
been weird.
younger, you could road dog the shit out of it.
Yeah, not even fucking care. It's like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
The label was actually pretty cool about that. They were like, we want road dogs, blah blah blah, and I said, look, I'm almost all the guys in my band have wives, or
Kids are
I
both.
believe to be soon with Alex, potentially a fiance or children, and we love music. We're musicians first. It's in my blood for 5 generations. Robb, it's just deep within his soul. But I'm not. I didn't have much of a father growing up, and I swore I would never let anything take away from my time with my son like I didn't have. Um,
Good for you.
and even my own ambition, my love to want to perform music professionally, will never stop that. So they were cool with us doing 2 or 3 week runs. It's just up
And,
to us to make money on the outside.
and you're doing
Like,
a
like and
tour
subscribe,
soon,
please.
right?
Like and subscribe, please. Robb needs this cash flow. So do we.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, follow
I
all creators, period.
but you're about to do a short run with Red Star and Drowning Pool, right?
That got canceled.
Ah,
That
damn
got
it.
canceled. Yeah. We're gonna do I think Texas and some Louisiana dates,
Okay.
but
Okay.
such is the way.
All right.
I do
So
want to say though that I mentioned earlier the downside of technology, keyboard warrior. Obviously, the upside is stuff like this, guys like you,
yeah,
PTB Empire that really help bands get discovered. It's there's get on a big playlist or meet the people in your scene, which is now
Dude,
worldwide. Depending on time zones.
Orion Reacts, Metal Burb, like PTB, like we got a lot of love from them. Hardcore Keem, we played a show with his band, The Browning. They showed us a lot of love. It's like they didn't have to do that. That was
yeah.
awesome. That's the opposite of family mentality. That's like, hey, we love your shit. I'm like, hey, I fucking love your shit too, Orion. I've watched your videos for like damn near, I don't know, 7 months. But I
All
know
right.
also I was going to say as a podcaster, I can guarantee you received some bullshit when you started your podcast, which has now grown exponentially.
Oh
I can
yeah.
guarantee it that people
Yeah.
said dumb fucking mean shit to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. I was hoping I was going to be wrong, but
It's I've been in media for 20 years. Um, I'm kind of used to it. Um, I used to be this party boy. I used to work for a product called The Weekender.
Mhm.
So The Weekender was like a weekly entertainment newspaper. This is
That's
like
cool. I love
back.
zines, man. I wish that
I was
come
it
back.
was it was awesome, but I got paid to party. People called me Johnny Weekender. My first name is John. People called me Johnny Weekender. People thought I owned the freaking thing. People hated me just because I was like out having a good time. Like I was popular. I was, girls liked me. Like so it's been 20 years of that kind of shit. So it's like, whatever. And it's still a very small scale in the grand scheme of things.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown, right? Crown,
I
right,
like
John?
that. I like that saying. That's a good quote.
I mean, it's got to be your mentality at a certain point, right? You got to have
Yeah,
a,
I
a
mean,
thick skin.
listen, end of the day, man. And I was thinking about this the other day. So many people like define themselves by certain things. Like, oh, I'm defined by my job, and I'm defined by, maybe let's say it's the music you create or whatever it might be. And people get so caught up
It's
in this like
poisonous. It's
this
poisonous.
shit. And like I thought to myself like I love my job. I'm thankful to have my job. It pays my bills. It provides my family with great things and opportunities and a future. But that doesn't define me. I don't give a shit about any of that. All I
Huh.
care about are my fucking two kids and my wife. And as long as they're taken care of and they respect me and they love me, that's the only fucking thing in the world I give a shit about. That's I think people lose their way. They just like
Hmm.
they get so caught up in like stuff that doesn't matter, you know?
I talked about this on a podcast the other day. Actually, I mean, you live to work, you don't work to live, John. That's what I
Yeah.
hear you saying. And with where Stoneside is going right now, I've kind of re-embraced some of the things that sadly society wrung out of me. They made me behave, and they made me think that, when you're going to give up this music thing. And um, I remember back in the day, one of my projects was being looked at by Roadrunner Records. We had like essentially like the beginnings of a development deal. And I think Island Def Jam bought them out, and they just kind of laid waste to their roster. It was around that time. And, we were obviously not going to even be on the table at that point. And I wrote a song about her, actually. My granny, who's a good person, but a stoic West Texas woman, wrote me a letter, and she said, I heard that the band broke up. And she goes, I think this is a very good thing. And she underlined it repeatedly. And I'll never forget that. And I know that she meant well, but it, I cared so much about what my society and my family and the expectation. You look, as men, we get it, man. It's keep your nose down. It's grind it out. It's
Yep.
people are counting on me. Instead of just being like, yeah, well, how about somewhere along the line, I do what I want with my abilities that were given to me, and I don't owe y'all shit.
Yeah.
Like at a certain point, like it's hard, John. It's hard to pull yourself away from expectations because people like to pan your creative endeavors. Like
Yep.
any podcaster, any artist, any band who's had any momentum whatsoever, people love to shoot at people that go out and try to do something creative.
Yep.
Even your own family members. I mean, at least when we got the offer from Sumerian, I messaged my core group of people that I love, and I want to say I expected it, but to my sadness, I was really hoping to hear from a couple of people first because I always love them and cheer them on for their successes. But sadly, some of my closest family members didn't have anything to say. And then guys that I literally met 3 months ago are like, I'm driving over to your house right now with a six pack. And I think if you have more people like that in your life, maybe you're more that support you, like your wife with your podcast, maybe it'll help keep you grounded enough until you take off.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a lot of that early on, man. I still lack a lot of self-belief, and I still very much question my music. And I very much question, am I doing the right thing with my life by winding up into this whole musical process again? Like,
Dude.
you know what I mean?
Oh,
Those
dude, 100%.
society got to me, man.
I mean, it's one of those things, and I don't know if it's like I just celebrated my 42nd birthday 2 or 3 weeks
Cheers,
ago.
man. Happy birthday.
Thank you. But you just get this age, and you kind of really reflect on, what you've done, who you are. Have you done enough? Uh, like, is there more in the tank? Like, do you need to do
Yeah.
more? And it just like you just think about all these things. And I mean, obviously, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I think earlier you mentioned everybody, finding their identity. It's
Yeah,
all different now with online stuff, but back in high school, it was like, oh, well, I'm on the wrestling team, but I have a band, and that the band was like that was who I was, hand out flyers, and if we didn't have recordings, we were promoting a show. Like that was me. I found something, a group, a team, and there was Echo. What is that? Check 1 2.
what was that?
Remix.
That's so weird.
I don't know.
Can you hear me again?
Yeah, I got you.
My
I
computer
hope that
keeps
comes
spitting
across.
out,
'Cause
it keeps
if no
ejecting.
one if no one hears that, and I'm like this, you're like, "Yo, what's Popko doing?"
That's how I was wondering what was going on.
Yo, you
I
didn't hear
couldn't
that?
hear. No,
Check. I think we're good. Yeah,
DC,
we're
you didn't
good.
hear that?
I
no,
heard it echoing earlier, but not now.
No, no, it's not going on now. But like DC, you didn't hear that when it was happening?
no.
Oh boy.
We'll see it on the playback.
Yeah, we'll see.
But
I
yeah,
was
like
gonna.
that was it. Like I'm a wrestler, musician, and before social media, it was like nobody would see me play guitar in public until I'd already been playing a couple years. Now anybody who's just starting can put up their first recording, which you should go for it, but they're going to hear you after like 2 weeks of playing or a month or whatever, and it's all very different now. So
I was gonna say that I want to. I want to also say like there's definitely some upside to the fact that none of us are 23 years old and pretty and TikTok stars when we're starting a new musical endeavor. Um, I guess the upside is kind of like maybe being a father when you're a little older, as you get to carry a little bit more wisdom into that experience.
Yeah,
When I toured when I was younger, everything got to me so much more. I wanted to make everybody happy, and I fucking stretched myself really thin musically and emotionally. Looking at this now and looking at the contract on the table and thinking about touring again, I don't know where Robb's at, but I suspect he's in a similar place to me, which is we're starting to know really more about what we deeply love, like what's inextricably within our souls that we just can't get rid of. And I realize that that's my identity is not a musician, but it is in my blood for 4 or 5 generations, and it is something that calls me. And I realize now I didn't have that confidence before. And I
yeah,
think at our age now, maybe when we get back out there and we start actively playing bigger shows again, maybe I can now engage it with more of a sense of balance in our life because I'm not the kid on the road anymore. I'm
right.
a father. I love martial arts. He grapples and does wrestling. He does his podcast. He's got a remote job. We'll keep all those probably on the road for a long period of time. Like we have more balanced lives. It's not all the eggs in one basket, sitting hoping that the label's happy with what you've done. Like
Yeah,
I think there's a confidence that comes with our age, guys, to a certain extent, where you're starting to be like, who am I? What have I done? And then also, well, what don't I question? Like, oh, I know this is fundamentally a part of who I am. And
yeah.
you start to really lean into that.
You realize what's important, what's not, and you know,
Yeah, that's a much more succinct way of putting it. I was struggling to find my thoughts.
no, it's all good, dude. I went on. I was going somewhere with a thing before, and I fucking lost it. But yeah,
Oh,
I
we're real
mean,
good at that around here.
now it's as you get older, wisdom kind of takes over, and you just realize what's more important in life, and it's kind of what's cool about growing up and getting older, and yeah, you can't bend as good as you used to. You can't recover from a hangover as good as you used to, but there's a lot of great
Ain't that
things.
right, Rob?
yeah,
Ain't
true.
that right, Rob?
We're gonna try though. We're gonna try. We'll give it a shot on Thursday
Speaking of a
night.
refill,
Hey, but we're also smarter, okay? We have this thing called the internet now where they shit talk us for making podcasts and music, but we can also research the best ways to replenish your electrolytes and what's the best hangover cure.
Yeah. Drink water before bed, some
Thank you,
salts,
internet.
electrolytes. Yeah. 100%.
I think I think getting into a creative pursuit like in your 30s, once you've established yourself, and these are cute little childhood things like, oh, when you get, this podcast, or oh, like why are you doing that, man? It's a waste of time. Oh, I'm gonna write a comic book. What? Like at a certain point, I think when you get to that age, you do start to grow in your confidence. And I'm not a confident person. I question damn near everything I do.
Same. Same.
But
100%.
but John also is like, if you're like me, and I'm sure Rob's like this, you might go to bed hating something, be like, this is fucking stupid. And then it's the first
Sometimes,
thing I think of when I wake up. Like I wake up and there's a song in my head. I'm like, I hate you. Why do you keep coming back to me? But
sometimes,
I
yeah.
just can't give it up. It's like it's the first thing in my head. That and pugilistic violence are the first things in my head in the morning.
I can't say the same.
Well, I mean, don't make people sound like I'm a fucking murderer or
No, I'm
anything.
not saying that either. We're just different people.
I
And
could
that's
teach you to
okay.
box, and you could teach me to be a pacifist, and I'll teach you to pass the fist.
I I just recently started going to the gym. Well, it's for the last 12, 13 weeks.
My man, good
Getting
job.
back in shape. I 11 years ago I
Congrats, bro.
started doing boxing. It was the best shape of my life is at 30 years old. I was
See,
doing
people don't
boxing.
talk about that. That's you're in your fucking prime, man.
You got it. Yeah. Yeah,
You're
we're
in your
young.
prime.
We're young. I'm young. I'm a young man.
Well, yeah, you know what's I mean, we're being hyperbolic, but at the same time, um, back to the point of making podcasts, making music, even engaging in an athletic thing in your 30s or 40s. It's also the idea that for a brief 20-year period of time, if you're lucky and healthy, your wisdom aligns with your physical for a brief period of time. You know, you're wise enough, but you still have your physical there. When you were younger, you had the physical, but you did not have the analytical ability fully nurtured and realized, or the wisdom. But then sometimes by the time you get there, you look back and think youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah.
When you're in your 30s, I believe the process starts to line up for the first time when people are like, hey, let's go do that. And you're like, you know what? I don't really care for that anymore. Like, what, are you serious? Yeah, it's not really my jam. When you start to speak with more confidence, or you're still physical enough to go do something athletic, or you're confident enough to go out and create a podcast, create art or music, but youthful enough to still keep that childlike exuberance alive for creating. So I don't know. I mean, I guess it is kind of your prime in a way.
Well,
Or maybe I'm just trying to talk us into feeling better
it
about
has to
ourselves.
be.
I
It
don't
has
fucking
to be,
know.
right? Like I got to a point where I'm like, I gotta do something. Like it's just got out of control, and I want to be around for a long time. I want to see my kids, you know, get married and have kids if that's what I want to do. And there's you get to a point like you beat up your body and
Goddamn right.
make the wrong choices, and one day you're like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. So you gotta figure it out. Um, but yeah,
I think that's why playing live shows will keep you young because you gotta still load in up the stairs, all the
yeah.
gear
Well,
set
I'm
up,
not
sweat under those hot stage lights for a while, and
I'm not doing
load
that.
out
You know,
again.
I got a desk
Well,
job. I keep blaming my daughter for the 10 or 15 pounds I gained when she was born, just because of her sleep schedule was dog shit.
I feel
Um,
that.
but again, it's been 12 weeks. I lost 12 pounds. Feel great, feel strong. And it's kind of setting a foundation. Like my son, who's going to be 7, sees me up early every day, going to the gym. It kind of shows him it's important to do. And I never
Strong,
had that. I never had that when I was growing up.
strong, positive movement, Dad.
Yeah, not that I'm saying like my dad wasn't a positive father figure, but um, it was just a different life back then, and I'm just
No,
more
I think that's really
cognizant.
cool.
Yeah, I'm just more cognizant of my dad passed away when I was 22, so
Wow.
it'll be 20 years next year, and
Too young
wasn't a
to
very
lose a dad, that's for sure.
very young. Yeah, it was. I felt more sorry and bad because like my brothers were, I was 22, they were 17 and 14 or
Ouch.
16 and 13. And my mom, like that. I mean, I, when that happened, I was like, I had my dad for all the important things in life. He saw me graduate high school, saw me graduate college, the important stuff, right? First girlfriend, all these things, these
Milestones.
milestones. Thank you. And my brothers didn't have that. And my mom was taking care of her mother who had an aneurysm for 2 years. So
Eesh.
she wasn't really around. And then her mom passed away, and she said, I could finally get back to my family and back to my husband. And 5 months later, he passed away. So all these things happened, and I just, I was lucky. They weren't. I feel, you know, bad about, them getting robbed
Hmm.
early.
Yeah,
And
but you have a very mature and gracious way of looking at it.
yeah, it's one of those things that you have
I mean,
to
you
just
experienced that too. You shouldn't minimize your pain. But
no,
you
and
went
I'm
ahead and you said, John, you said, I'm lucky. Like losing your father at 22 and for you to say you're lucky because you looked at the sorrows of your other family members, like that's the real fucking heart of gold right there.
yeah,
You're
I
grateful.
I am.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just
fucking amazing, John.
well, thank you. I never like actually thought about that before because I
No,
just
that's fucking amazing. Like you should pat yourself on the back.
nah.
You went through a gauntlet that a young man should not have to go through.
Well, it's one of those things, and I've talked about it on the show before. It's I don't want to keep you guys too long. Well, you are 2 hours behind me, but I still don't want to occupy your entire night. Um, I grew up as in the church, and my dad passed away. I was like, maybe this isn't really where I want to be. Like, how can you? 'Cause I lost my best friend's father, who was like a second father to me, my grandmother, my other grandmother, and my dad, all in like an 8 month time frame. I'm like, how the fuck could you do this to me? Like, what are you doing to me, my family? I need a break from God, right? And as the years went on, I said to myself, like, I'm a very firm believer in everything happens for a reason. But I can never find a reason why my dad was taken from me and my family at that young age. And I don't know if this is like an epiphany or just like me forcing myself to kind of find a reason. But I was like, maybe like God, felt that he could do that to me and my family because he knew that we could handle it.
Hmm.
And I mean that, and then like, I'm gonna use you guys as an example just because you're here. DC, maybe like he's like, oh, I'm gonna spare DC because he's been through a lot of shit, and if he has to endure this, he might go down a dark road. I'm not saying this would happen to you. I'm just talking out loud. Or with Rob, if this happened to you, you might turn to drugs, and you might something might bad might happen to you. Right? It's like John, you can handle it. You and your family can handle it. I'm giving my what's the word? What's the phrase? Like God gives his
Well, there
fuck.
there was a phrase that we used to comfort ourselves in Christianity from that. Again, I want to say that I'm not a Christian, but I have read the New International Version cover to cover. I've read the Quran cover to cover, and I've read the Hadiths because I just needed to know. And one of those things it is, the Lord gives you nothing that you cannot handle,
Basically, yes. Same
essentially.
concept. Yep.
And then you look at the character of Job, having gone through so much adversity, right? And you want to talk about being tested, right? Um, it's hard for me to look at those things and not feel resentful of those stories, but they're useful to draw inspiration and power from,
Yeah.
whether you're a Christian or not. I mean, I think we all grew up, child of the South. I grew up Christian,
Yeah.
you know, um, but we can still pull on those stories. And I don't know where you're at with your faith at all, but I have to assume that it's definitely allowed you to look at the passing of your father and all those other people within 8 fucking months
Yeah.
with some degree of grace.
Yeah. It's whether whether it was forced to find a reason why or not. I don't know. But my life is I have an amazing life. Um, this is I feel bad talking about this because this is about you guys and but
No, man,
I
we're having a conversation.
I have a wife that is a 12. Um,
My man.
I'm not even like exaggerating. She's especially in comparison to me, a 12. So smart, so beautiful, like
What's up, Miss Popko? Love you.
exactly, exactly.
Holler at
Uh
me.
she she I mean, I remember when we first started dating, I'm like, I cannot even believe she's entertaining any of this. I mean, I'm just like, she'll be gone in 3 months. There's no way she sticks around. And I remember like, it was like 8 months later and she's still there.
That's every man ever.
And she was still there. I'm like, okay, well, I guess this is happening. So, and I wasn't looking for like you know, a wife at that point and or like a steady, anything steady. I was like, I will never do better than this. I will never ever. And if she's gonna be dumb enough to stick around, I'll take advantage of it. And here we are 16 years later and a beautiful house and two beautiful kids and um
Well,
with
see,
much
now you're
pain.
fucked. You can't leave. You ain't never gonna get it no better, John.
No, I
You're
just
done,
can't.
bro.
I can't. All the
That's a
pain,
wrap.
all the pain I've endured, I've been given, you know, twice that back
Yeah,
in
man.
everything else that I've been through, like my wife and my children, and
You know,
maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Like I had to endure the pain and suffering to have what I have now. Maybe that's what it is too. I don't know, but
I'm a. I wish I had that. It's just I. It sounds so much better to hear someone say that than say what I feel, which is I'm very much on the fence about that, which is, again, with the Sumerian thing, you have to wind up where I am in my life again. Like when I started Stoneside, just so you know, I was done with original music. I was like, I'm not doing this shit anymore. Um, this is fucking hard. There's no reward. I'm burned out. And then it's literally like a storybook thing where I was like, oh, whatever. I'll just make something one more time. And then now here we are. But what would all the moments that led me to be where I am now, where I can feel like I can help people and be a successful musician and get that validation that I never really had. Would I go back in time if I could undo all the shit things that happened to me and the abuse and the self-loathing? Um, I really wish I could view it the way you do, and I envy people that do, but I think I would go back. I think I would trade in all of this to be able to start over and not have to be subjected to what I was subjected to.
well, that's fair. That's a
But it doesn't sound valiant like when you
uh,
speak. It
uh,
sounds like, oh, you're not seeing the forest for the trees.
now and but that's not a fair thing for people to say.
That's just how I don't know. It makes me
It's not.
feel like I'm the weaker of the two choices when
No,
I say I would give
no.
all this up so that I
Mm-mm.
could go back and not, be bullied my whole life or other things that happened to me, so.
There's different circumstances, and I don't think it's fair to yourself to doubt yourself or whatever it might be.
You know, Musicians are notoriously sensitive people.
Well, sure, but like,
And as one, the one thing that does allow me to sort of align with you, John, is since I can't go back in time, my son, if I keep myself in check and don't allow sins of the father to breathe through me into my son, um, the scars that I took make me aware of how I'm speaking to him. And he has certain personality types and conditions that I got chastised and beat up for when I was young. Had I not gone through that, you know where this is going.
yeah,
I don't know that I would be empathetic to him at a really deep level. to be honest, I think I probably would have been like some of the men in my family where it's like, shut up, sit down, and if you make too much noise, you're getting hit.
Yep.
I think I think I could be somebody like that. I think I could be a piece of shit.
But that's progress.
Well, yeah, if I hadn't had that shit happen to me, John, to your point, if there's one reason I wouldn't go back and trade anything good in my life in to just go back before I was roughed up,
Yeah.
it would be that I don't know that I would ever be able to sympathize with certain types of people that I meet in the world had I not suffered and ultimately the needs of the many above the needs of the few, I guess.
Yeah,
Like if
but
I
that
could help
doesn't
more people.
but that doesn't continue though. So
Yeah.
so that's a good thing. Like, yes, you had to sacrifice and you had to go through that, all those things, but like it's it's not going to continue on your watch. And
Oh, oh, I
that's
hope.
big.
Oh.
That's big. You got, and I think that alone, I'm not going to tell you what you should or shouldn't feel, but there's
It's all valid.
a lot of positivity there that's not going to continue on your watch because you recognize it. You
Well, you know what's
recognize it.
interesting? But the pull is still there, John. Like
That's okay.
the potential for the addict, the potential
That's
for
okay.
the violent man is still
Those guys,
the
those
wolf is
guys are
still in there.
those guys are always going to knock on the door. Those guys are always going to knock on the door. But as long as you don't answer, that's all that matters.
Isn't there an old Christian adage about that?
I don't know.
Jesus just
I don't
knocking on
know.
the
I
door and
don't
all you gotta
know.
do is answer. Remember that?
I didn't pull that from something I remember. I was just saying those demons.
No, but all joking aside, no, you're right. It's just hard to stave off. I have mixed feelings about going on the road again, and not seeing my son for 2 weeks at a time
Sure.
because of my childhood. I kind of reconciled as it's just like being a trucker again. I mean, it's
But
but
if you acknowledge it, you recognize it, those is if you can do those things, if you can at least do those things, even if something bad happens or wrong happens, at least you acknowledge it beforehand and said, these aren't things I want to do. Because other people are just like, ah, fuck, I don't give a fuck about my kid or whatever the fuck it is.
yeah, plenty of people feel that way. I mean,
Plenty of people.
is a dude who volunteered in the foster system like you see the fucking dregs of society, man.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking as a person with addictive tendencies too. So
Yeah.
I'm not panning people for being addicts, but sometimes addicts are just addicts. And sometimes, like everyone, they're also bad, horrible people.
Sure.
And
100%.
they most likely were not born that way. They most likely were subjected to
Right.
things that shape them poverty, poor
Yep.
choices by their parents. And this is the part where half the Texans I know would be like, well, everybody has things to deal with. You have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Bootstraps.
Well,
Yeah,
sorry, the
man.
statistics don't support that. Like, if you come from poverty, you're more likely to be involved in crime,
Yeah.
period. Every way on planet Earth, the statistics back that up.
It's just
But if you're going to have to suffer, come here.
it's a vicious circle. Are we getting the dude? There he is.
Can you say hi, Tim?
Hello.
What's
Hey,
up, buddy?
Timothy. We're talking about Stoneside with Mr. John and Mr. Robb here. Um, you want to talk about inspiration for music? This is my son's drawing that I keep in the studio
Do we have a
to
writer?
remind me of why I do this. And he drew our logo. And this was before anything happened with the band. And I'm going to have it framed and put on the wall in my studio.
That's awesome. What are you watching,
Mom,
buddy?
He's actually my little nerdy child is trying to become a chess master.
Oh, very cool.
Idolizes Gary
Hey,
Kasparov.
that's better than watching like Bluey or YouTube.
Oh, Tim, you watch Brain Rot, don't you?
Brain rot. That's what I call it too.
Come on,
Yeah,
baby.
that's what I call it
Come
too.
on. Why you full of it like that? You
How
want
old
to
are
tell
you?
these men that you watch a bunch of garbage?
How old are you, Tim?
I'm 10 years old.
Going on 47.
You're watching
Get out of
YouTube.
here. Go to bed. That's your bedtime. I'll whoop your ass. Get out of here. Close the door, please, kiddo. All right, baby. I love you. That's why we do it, right?
Yeah, 100%.
This.
And at the end
This
of
is
the
what
day,
Stoneside is about.
at the end of
I'm
the
going to
day,
die one day and he's going to carry on. And this is what's going to be in my mind. It's not going to be Fortune 500 CEO. It's
right.
going to be, father, husband, musician.
My dad was there for me. That's all
Got
that
it. Yeah.
fucking matters, dude.
If my son is not standing giving my eulogy for any other reason than he's shy, you failed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not gonna fail. He's also a musician. He's got a voice like a fucking angel.
There you go.
Our
Pass that.
legacy gets carried on, and I support
Well,
that.
it's funny. I talk about legacy a lot on this too, just because again, I think I'm getting older, and especially with music and musicians and arts and creative
Some of
stuff.
your
Like,
recent posts addressed that. Actually, you spoke of legacy.
yeah, I mean, it just, what do you guys hope that you guys leave behind when you're gone, whether it's musically or personally or whatever it might be? Like, you're gonna be leaving this world one day, unfortunately. And what do you hope that you leave behind?
I know Robb has gone through some stuff within the last couple of years. It'll make you take a look at things. I want to hear his answer first because yeah. Go ahead, Robbie.
Man, leave something you can look at or read or listen to. There was a while I wanted to go to Full Sail in Florida and learn how to record and all this. And I was picturing like one day I will have written like 100 songs or something. And obviously,
Almost there, Robb.
I end up obviously not going to Full Sail, but a few years later, recently looked through my Dropbox, like, wow, I've got over 100, song ideas, riffs and movements and stuff. And so it was like, they're not all going to be full songs, but just the writing process was cathartic for me. It's what I want to do with my free time. And live streaming was, just a whole nother level to it. And just using Photoshop over the years, drawing all kinds of stuff. Like there's, I love making videos. A lot of it's just documenting, tour stuff. Some of it's funny stuff. Some of it's for work, and I look back like, wow, I've actually made a lot of stuff. And some of it will never get seen, but the process of each one that you do at every riff, every song, every video, your next ones are a little better, one step up. And I guess leave a legacy of progress, that, whether it was done or perfect or finished, no, you did it, you shared it, you moved on to the next one. And it's like, oh, this guy wrote 4 songs his life. No, it's like he was constantly doing something different, music, movies, both, whatever. I think a lot of people, they struggle to just release things because they're okay with just constantly being in a state of progress. Like, oh, we're working on it, we're working on it. It's like, well, you got to at least at some point hit save and bounce the song and release it, and because you are your own biggest critic, musicians especially. So just whatever it is, do as much of it as you can. Do you have your one magnum opus, or do you have 200 other things that represent what you spent your time on?
Yeah.
My answer is I don't know. I just want to.
Still building it, still creating it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I would have to. So sticking with the morbidity of Stoneside and my fascination with death, over the years, I've looked at quotes from some of our intellectuals of our time, the last several centuries, and I specifically looked at some of the things they said when they were on their deathbeds or about death, and what are the things they talked about at the end of their life after they had accrued all that wisdom, all those joys, all those sorrows. And I'm sure y'all will not be surprised to hear this. The same things kept getting brought up over and over again. We can all guess more or less what those things are because we all know what we appreciate and love the most. And regardless of your religion or your background, most of us have those things in common. Good food, love of your family, friends, significant other, beautiful weather, beautiful days, holidays, simple pleasures. They don't require a shit ton of money or education. They're universal. All I know is those things have been true since I was a child, and they're still true now. And I think those are the things that I'll value at the end of my life, I assume. And so I hope I leave behind, I guess, a legacy of investment in things that made the world beautiful and actions that, that maybe I wasn't a perfect man, but that people know that I don't really give a fuck what people think, that my son knows that I love him more than anything, and anything I leave, I want to leave for him and let him know and let anyone else know. Like, just leave an imprint, leave a beautiful imprint. Don't leave generations of trauma and chaos in your wake. Pass from your father to your father to your mother to your father. And then all you did is just fulfill the prophecy yet again. I just want to be the nail in the coffin of the darkness. And I want to be the birth of the new legacy.
Break the cycle.
Yeah, sorry, it's clumsy because I'm saying this out loud for the first time. I've never really
No,
thought about it.
no, it's not at all.
And you know what, actually? Thank you. You're my therapist. I just realized that's what I'm trying to do with Stoneside.
I'll put you.
I literally just realized that that's why I think I'm fucking writing this.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I'll send you an invoice for the.
You take food stamps, man? Hey, if we go on tour, we all know we're not quitting our remote jobs. Isn't that right, Robbie?
Yeah.
Nah, I'll burn up some PTO, but don't want to go so far.
See, it got too heavy. I had to joke.
Well, I think first full circle we got to the real point of Stoneside with that ending statement there from you. This is why you're doing it, and this is why it's important. And I think we can end it there.
This turned into a really badass conversation.
Yeah, it was great.
Appreciate it.
This is why I love doing this. This is again, it's not something I get paid to do. It's purely a passion project, and I love doing it. And I love
Your
the fact
viewers
that
are gonna hate us.
no,
Your viewers are gonna hate us. You came in here to talk about music, and we're talking about existential depression and the reasons.
no, because that's important. It's part of life. It's part of who we are. It's part of everything we're all going through. Like this is real life shit.
Maybe you just answered your own question, by the way. That might be it. You said, why do people respond to your songs the way they do? Maybe that's the conversation we're having right now, perpetuated by discussions of what are you doing with your life on your finite time here on planet Earth. Yeah. That's more or less what our conversation is centered around.
Yeah.
Uses of your time, poor uses of your time.
Yeah.
That really is the common thread that's run through everything we've discussed to the best of my recollection.
I agree.
And yeah, it did come full circle.
It did.
I'm gonna have to start believing in this fate shit y'all keep telling me about. I think y'all are all full of shit, but I will entertain the idea in private when I don't have pride to lose.
I mean, fate. I mean, it doesn't have to be like religion based or that. Just kind of like it's
dude.
It's
Rob and my keyboard player John have been trying to fucking sing this bullshit to me since the dawn of time.
It's the universe. It just happens.
I know. I look.
Some
shit has happened that is pretty crazy, but
plan or some well orchestrated coincidences make up, certain certain stories. Most of the stories, actually.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Anyway, I just want to say I apologize, John, to your listeners. To all,
do not apologize. I will not leave. I will not let you finish. I will not let you finish. I will not let you finish. I'm going to overpower you with my voice. Stop talking. No, do not apologize. This is a great conversation. This is the shit that I really love. It's easy to be like, oh, what's the name of the band? And how did you make that up? And what do you do? And blah, blah. That's easy shit, right?
There's a million of us.
Yeah. I mean, that shit's boring. This stuff is what makes it, impactful. It makes it worthwhile. And I wish you guys, I don't know when I'm going to release this yet, if it's going to be next Friday or the Friday after that. I've got one ahead of you, but I'm going to try and maybe jockey that around. But
whatever, man.
Whatever happens,
we'll throw it up all over the fucking place.
Whatever happens, I wish you guys the best with the record contract, and I hope that goes, the way you want it to. And hopefully you make it out to the East Coast. If that's the case, please hit me up if you're in the Wilkes-Barre Scranton area.
It's not if, it's when.
It's when. Right. When you guys are out this way, hit me up and I will definitely do my best to make it to that show.
John, thank you for having us. And again, happy birthday.
Oh, and, that was weeks ago. That was weeks ago. It's old news.
But still.
I appreciate it.
Regardless, yeah. We're new to the dance. We still are like, hey, that's awesome. You won that dance trophy. I wanted to say also, just one more refresher on the earlier conversation, like no man should have to lose his father at 22 years old. You're just not emotionally ready for it. And nor your siblings, certainly not at 14, one of the most critical development periods. If you lose a parent, that is precisely the time you don't want to lose them, when you're finding your voice. And adolescence and boys, girls, school. But 22, still, you're nowhere near grown. And for you to analyze and assess that afterwards by saying that you were lucky, that's a fucking extremely humble and grateful attitude. And there's a lot of people like you, and I have a lot to learn. Um, I'm envious of statements like that, which leads me to believe that perhaps I can achieve that mentality someday. But I'm very impressed that you were able to say that, having gone through the kind of gauntlet where people should shake their fists at God and be like, why me?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I, I did
you
that.
reconciled somehow.
I did that. Yeah. But thank you. I mean,
But you came out on top.
I never really thought about it that way. So thank you for kind of acknowledging that and putting that into that kind of perspective. And I'm one of those guys, I don't think anything that I do is very important. Outside of being a great father and a good husband. That's all I really, people, this, they could say they're sound bites, right? I again, I don't care. Like the only thing that defines me is the father I am to my children and the husband I am to my wife. I don't give a fuck about anything else. That's all I care about.
And it does take getting older to really put all the chips on that table.
It does.
Maybe that's the
Hence,
maturity that will come with our age that will be useful in our future musical endeavors and also in your podcast.
yeah, it all kind of, I think, blends together and kind of, you know,
Confident in what's right, what's wrong, what you really love, and
yeah,
what you can do without.
yeah,
To cut through the bullshit is the gift of our age if we examine it properly.
correct.
God damn, that's the best thing I've ever said. And there was nobody here but y'all to hear that shit.
Yeah, well, this is recorded, so this will be out to the masses in a week or two. So
Well, too bad my
it
son
will
doesn't listen to podcasts.
it's
Ben,
forever.
come here.
Well,
Listen to how fucking brilliant your father is.
no. So what's cool about this is again going
Don't
back to
cuss.
legacy, right? Like, I
Don't say
talked
fuck in
about
front of my son.
this. No, I talk about this a lot. Like, I wish I had a voicemail from my dad. A fucking voice. What I wouldn't give to have a fucking voicemail.
This, that. The last song on God of the Mountain is called Dirt Road. The second verse is a audio clip from my grandmother saying happy birthday and telling what's going on in her life and saying, I love you and I wish I could be there where you are, but I'm with you in spirit. I would give you a big hug and a big kiss. And I couldn't find a second verse to write because it was about my grandmother. She essentially helped raise me. And so I put that in there because, like, you can't let them tell their story
Right.
from the afterlife. They're going to do it better than me. So I got so lucky, John. So I totally feel you. I got
Yeah.
so lucky that I stumbled upon that because that could have been lost into the ether forever.
Yeah.
And now it's immortalized on record.
My mother's still alive, thankfully, and I think I have 8 voicemails in my phone from her.
Hmm.
Like over the past like 8 years. So I'm like,
Yeah.
you never know. And they're dumb voicemails. They're not even like important. They're like, hey John, it's mom. Give me a call.
That's it. That's it.
That's all I want.
Yeah.
And if I can pass along anything to anybody who has their loved ones still alive, and you have a voicemail, just keep it. Keep it. Storage on a phone doesn't fucking matter. That will
Yeah.
be invaluable for the rest of your fucking life.
That's also something. That's also something about the music is that it does feel grandiose when I say this, and I feel weird about it, but there is some truth to it. I don't feel like I'm doing anything magical and oh, thank God for Stoneside, we get to tell your story. But it's like I interviewed my other grandmother before she passed away of cancer, and there was a list of questions, and I asked her, and I recorded them. She's again just a stoic woman, essentially a cowboy's wife from West Texas. And you could tell that she had never been asked these questions and she had probably never said this shit. And one of them was about race relations out in West Texas, like in Sonora and out in there in the desert. And she told me the story that is our song Cold Dead Hand, where her father, who owned a barbershop and was also a cowboy, um, had a shoe shine guy there. They called him Shoe Shine Boys, and he was a black guy. And in those days, especially in rural Texas, it wasn't a thing. But they were like best friends and were like, fuck anybody who says otherwise. But one day he did not come into work, and then he did not come into work the next day. And my great granddad went trying to figure out, no one would help him find this man. And then eventually he ended up finding him dead in the river draw down there in Sonora. He had been almost beaten unrecognizably because he had supposedly impregnated a white woman, a white married woman in town. Turns out it was a white baby when she had it, and wasn't his at all. And his name was Big John. Apparently he was quite huge, and he got introduced to my granny and everything. And she said that it was the only time she saw her father come in through the screen door, and you know, something was said with him and his wife, said that he just fucking broke down into tears and like, walked in the other room, didn't want to be seen. And she never, my father, no one knew that story, and it was only because I asked. And now the lessons of that story, the racism, the judgments, the sorrow, those things and the good lessons of not to repeat that now live on because we asked the question. That sounds like really grandiose. I'm not meaning to sound like, oh, I'm doing some huge service to planet Earth, but
No,
I
I
just
agree.
never forgot that if I hadn't asked those questions, knowing that one day I would not be able to talk to her anymore, and those answers and stories might be lost.
You're right. You're right.
And then when you think to ask, it's too late. They've been gone for a decade.
Exactly. One last thing I'll tell you.
Sorry.
The day the day my dad died, he came to the office where I worked at, because I had not been living at home, and my golf clothes were at home, and he was going to bring them to my office to where I was working because I was going to go golfing that day. Brought him to my office, and he was leaving to go back to work, and I had looked up, and I was going to say I love you, and he was already through the door and down the hallway, and if I wanted to say that to him, I would have had to have, like, yelled it like really, really loud.
Mm.
And so I'm like, oh, in my head, I'm like, oh, I'll just tell him later. And there was no later.
Yeah.
So I wear this pendant on my necklace, and I worn it. It'll be 20 years next year. And I can't see because my microphone's away, but it's thumbprint. And on the back of it is, it says, I love you on it.
Damn.
Because those are the last words I wish I would have said to him.
Now, don't live with that regret because he knew.
No, I know that. I know.
Okay,
and
just want to make sure. Not trying to mansplain, but I feel like
no. And it's weird too because, like, he was a man of very few words, and we didn't
Hey, those are the
exchange.
best.
We didn't exchange I love yous very much. Like, and I knew he loved me, and I know he knew that I loved him.
Yeah.
And going back to what you were saying about your son and passing things down and breaking cycles, like, my kids will never not know how much I love them. It's the point where, when I put my kid to bed, my son to bed, we'll say I love you 5 times, before bed. And if I leave to go do a podcast or do whatever for work, he's like in the front door, I love you, Dad. So I love you too, buddy. I love you, Dad. It's like, dude, I love you too. It's like over the top almost, but like I'll never trade that for the world. Like, he'll never not know how much I love him, and I think it's important for us to do.
I named my kid after my granddad for a reason.
Yeah.
Damn, this is the other podcast that I've done within a week, and it's funny because these are the subjects we stumble upon. I go on to musical podcasts, and we turn it into conversations about philosophy.
I love it.
And purpose.
It's deeper than that.
We got to try to keep it more shallow, gentlemen.
Nah, I mean, music is obvious. Music is surface level, dude. There's so much that goes is behind it and
You're right.
Below
it's just
it.
a series of sounds and silences. It has no emotional value to it whatsoever. Until we infuse it with the history of pain, happiness, joy, love,
right,
and all the humanities.
Right. Exactly. There's
100%.
There's a lot
I'm gonna
behind
make
it.
music. There it is.
Yeah.
It's musical.
So, well, thank you for your time.
Yeah,
This
man.
is-
No, fucking thank you for
I
having us.
thought last week was the longest one I've done in the past 5 months. This is the longest one.
To all your
Um,
listeners, I am so sorry.
Don't be sorry.
I am so sorry. I will buy you.
I don't even have any
6 months
listeners.
worth.
The sucker is you. I don't have 0 listeners. No one cares.
What are you talking about? You got plenty of fucking
I'm kidding.
fanfare on your page.
I'm
All right,
kidding.
okay. I
I'm
thought you
kidding.
were serious.
I'm kidding. I hope. But I mean,
Yeah,
again, going back to what I said before, what I do, I find none of it's important. But thank you guys. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your music. I appreciate your insight. I appreciate the goals and ambitions. And, we're talking about breaking cycles and kind of, creating a better future for ourselves and our families and our children. I think it's all very important. So continue on that path. Looking forward to seeing the news that you signed to that record label, and we'll see what happens then.
yeah. We're gonna need about 97 more zeros on the end of that number.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Hey, gotta walk before we run, man. We're just fucking happy to be here.
Hell yeah. Guys,
All right, John. Hey,
thank you guys.
Sincerely, thank you for the conversation.
Absolutely.
And happy birthday. And you're a fucking cool guy. And I know when I'm talking to you, you're a good father. It's
Thank
that
you.
simple. Like, you just feel the energy.
Thank you.
So yeah, yay music, but we also talked as men, and I appreciate that far more.
And I truly believe that, whatever demons you are battling, you are overcoming them, and you're doing
Well, with
the
the
right
help of
things.
psilocybin, I actually am. Yes.
Whatever. Hey, doesn't matter.
No, wait, I
Does
used
it
to
matter?
think it. I felt guilty until I realized it was actually helping.
It helps. I think there should be more research into it. There should be, especially for
Johns Hopkins just did a pretty exhaustive
yeah,
longitudinal study on it.
there'll be more to come out from that for sure.
We're going down a rabbit hole again, y'all.
And I gotta pee, so we can't do it.
All right. I got to drink half a 6-pack before I go to bed.
All right.
So.
We'll see you guys.
Cheers, man.
Thank you again.
Take care. See you.
Bye.